Project manager responsibilities, 14 things the project manager does. The word project has 7 letters, and so does the word manager. Project managers everywhere need to be aware of these 14 things that every project manager should be doing. I'm going to break this down into 2 sections. The first section will talk about the word project. The second section will talk about the word manager. So let's start off with project. Project managers plan. This is one of the things every project manager is expected to do. They are expected to plan a variety of things that revolve around the triple constraint: schedule, cost, scope, throw in risk, throw in resources, throw in quality, and everything else: stakeholder engagement, communications, contracting or procurement, the whole integration of the entire project. Everything needs to be planned by the project manager. Now let's focus in on one key thing that trumps everything else: risk manage. Project managers need to risk manage. And I'm going to be showing you a quote from my friend, Dr. David Hilson, that helps you see why risk management is so important compared to everything else. Organize. Project managers need to be on the organization journey and take their teams along with them. It's not enough to say I've planned. The organization is a day-to-day journey from the beginning of the project all the way to the end. This is where the project manager clears up the crowd and clears up things that have been left over by team members. It is part of the job. It is part of the buck passing to us, the project manager. Job enrichment. A lot of project managers fail to realize that job enrichment is part of their responsibility. It's part of what project managers do on projects because you are the boss of the project. If a team member on your project reports to someone else, but they're having a horrible day on your project, it is your job, project manager, to understand job enrichment is one of the things to introduce. How can you make the job more enriching for that individual on your team at that time, whether they report to someone or not? Encourage. Project managers should be encouragers. It is our job as a project manager, the leader of the entire outfit, to encourage team members. It's part of leadership. Leadership takes the responsibility, the accountability, the ownership of the encouragement piece, the ownership of the motivation piece. Communicate. Project managers, what can I say to you about communication? The project manager spends 70 to 90% of her time or his time communicating. So of course, it's definitely one of the things on my hit list for this first round. And last but not least, time manage. Time management is a key aspect of project management. Why? Because to many people, it is the most visible aspect of the project. Even before they get into the intricacies of cost or scope, the question is, are we on schedule? For that reason, I have found schedule management and time management to be the thing that project managers list as their responsibility the most. And for that reason, it is my number 7 item in this list. So why don't we take a look at these in a little bit more detail? Planning. Planning is the one thing the project manager lives to do on a daily basis. This is not just something we do in the beginning, but it's something we do as a way of life. In the world of Agile now, we know that planning is not a one-stop thing. It's not what you do at the beginning and stop. It is what you continue to do and what you take an account of at the end of every phase, at the end of every day, at the end of every sprint. Risk manage. Dr. David Hilson says every project management process aims to manage risk. Think about it. What is risk? It's the effect of uncertainty on the project, positive or negative. Every project seeks to undertake some measure of risk to pursue opportunities and benefits that they seek to realize. Think about it. Whether you are in schedule management, the main aim is to manage uncertainty. Whether you are in scope, the main aim is to manage the uncertainties so you don't have surprises. Think about cost. Why do we cost out the project? It is to manage uncertainties. Let's talk about organize. For every minute spent organizing, an hour is earned, says an anonymous quote. When you think about being organized, it's about knowing where everything is on the project. The PMI talk about the project manager being able to produce a document, an artifact, for every instance in time where they are asked, may I have the plan? May I have the document? May I have the records? A student on our channel said, there is a project manager in my organization that does absolutely nothing. I do almost every piece of his work and he gets paid so much more than us. I do all the organizing. I do everything. Why should the project manager be regarded? And that is a very valid question, because project managers who cannot produce the information required at the right time, the right reports at the right time, and be on the ball, they need to go for a course in being organized. It's not enough for a project manager to say, I don't have it, when asked for a report or when asked for a piece of information. We should be all over the information on our projects. It's called work performance information, work performance reports, and we need to be all over it. And the only way to be all over your project is to be organized. How do you get organized? Simple things such as a Kanban board. I recommend every project manager have a Kanban board. If you don't have a Kanban board and you're dealing with multiple Post-it notes, you're definitely going to be muddled up after a while, except you use the Post-it notes on a Kanban board. It is just something that is so intuitive and sensible for a project manager to do. Apart from organizing our daily work as project managers, we need to keep everyone else on task and organized. And the way to do that is using a wide variety of vehicles: burn down charts, schedules, burn up charts, and various other artifacts like that. Job enrichment is a common motivational technique used by organizations to give an employee greater satisfaction in his work or her work. It means giving an employee additional responsibilities previously reserved for his manager or other higher ranking positions. Now, to take advantage of job enrichment, you do not have to be a functional head. You do not have to be a functional manager. As a project manager, you need to find innovative ways of making work fun for project personnel and team members. John Maxwell says at level 2, the likability level in the 5 levels of leadership, the permission level where people follow you because they like you, he talks about making work fun. How can you make your project fun? How can you enrich the experience? That is the job of the project manager to unravel and think about. E for encourage. Blessed are the project managers who give their downtrodden team members hope. They shall inherit the hope dealer's reward. John Maxwell says, leaders are dealers in hope. In the same vein, the project manager needs to see themselves as a dealer of hope, of encouragement. Every team member on your watch, on your project, needs to be encouraged, needs to be given some hope. When the time gets tough, when it gets rough, my question is, project manager, are you stepping up to give hope, to give encouragement? It's a leadership stance. It's something you should be doing as a project manager. I remember working in a company that was going downhill really quick, and one day we're having a meeting with the CEO who looked like he hadn't slept in days. And I said, thank you for all you're doing. I know it must be difficult. I was not the CEO. I was a producer in this company. And that was my role, not in a leadership role as far as being the C-level in the C-level suite. But I saw a C-level executive look like he was washed up on a beach beaten, downtrodden, having a rough day, just as a result of empathy, I made that comment, that statement to him. And you know what he said? He looked me in the eye and he said, "Thank you. I am really grateful for that comment." I could tell that everyone had browbeaten him within his immediate circle as a result of him not being able to generate salaries and generate some traction. Things had almost ground to a standstill. But I could see that he needed some encouragement. Communicate. Effective communication is the project manager's lifeblood. Remember, the project manager spends 70 to 90% of the time communicating. Now, you don't want to be like my friend here, just stuck to the phone. That is one good thing. But even worse, you don't want to be on email 90% of the time. No, you want to stand up from behind the desk, go to where the people are, go to where humans are. Hey, being on email for 90% of the time is not the answer to project success. It is by face-to-face communication. I mean, Professor Emeritus Albert Mehrabian has proven this to us in his experiments at UCLA, where he identified that words only carry 7%. Whereas if you had the opportunity of putting a little bit of body language, a little bit of tone of voice to the mix, you've got a 93% differential, a 93% increase rather, between just words and making it larger than life. So if you as a project manager have an opportunity to communicate face to face, just going down the hall or down the street, I highly advise you do that. A lot of PMs are guilty of writing fiery emails and sending it to all and sundry and everyone's grandma. That's probably not the best way to proceed. The best way to proceed will be to effectively communicate by face-to-face communication where possible, being on the phone where you're not able to see face-to-face, and if all else fails, craft a sensible, meaningful, intentional, carefully crafted email, because remember, as my friend Rick Brinkman said, who wrote the book Dealing with People You Can't Stand, Dr. Rick Brinkman says, don't give them the opportunity of hallucinating freely, because they will, and you don't want that to be the case. I hope this helps you in identifying those things, some of those things. This is definitely by no way, shape, or form an all-inclusive list. Definitely not. There's a lot more that the project manager needs to be doing, but this is just the beginning. Last but not least, do not forget the time factor. You are a time manager. I like a quote by Charles Richards. He says, "Don't be fooled by the calendar. There are only as many days in the year as you make use of. One man gets only a week's value out of a year, while another man gets a full year's value out of a week." I was just having a conversation with a young project manager, and I said, don't let people steal your time, because time is the one commodity you can't buy or replace. Thank you for joining me today, my project managers, and I hope this gives you some inspiration. Remember, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. And if you know of any project managers struggling, you need to inform them about this series. I'm sure they will like to come on board the program and learn a little bit more. In the next session, I'll be talking to you about the race to the South Pole. Roald Amundsen, the Norwegian explorer who went head to head, as it were, with Robert Falcon Scott, the British naval officer. We'll find out who won the trip to the South Pole, and I'll underscore lessons from that adventure. End of part 1, and I look forward to seeing you in part 2. Take care and bye for now.